Welcome to Time Before Us, the channel where ancient history breathes again. Before time had a name. Before the first human breath, there existed a world fierce, forgotten, and alive. Creatures of scale and silence, predators wrapped in feathers, titans that shook the earth, lives erased, bones buried beneath eternity. But they are not lost. They are waiting. This is Time Before Us, where prehistoric worlds rise again, and the stories buried in stone finally speak. Chapter 1. Shadows before time, long before the world we know today. Before cities, before stories, before even the idea of human memory, there was a time when the earth itself seemed to breathe differently. Imagine a world unrecognizable, a land sculpted by fire and water, where colossal forests stretched farther than the eye could see, and the air carried a thickness of heat and mist. This was a stage prepared not for us, but for beings so alien, so immense, that their very presence would echo through millions of years. These were the first shadows before time, the whispers of life rising on a planet still young and untamed. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing on the edge of a primeval forest. Towering tree ferns rise like green cathedrals. Insects the size of dinner plates buzz with heavy, droning wings. Beneath the shadows, something stirs. The ground trembles, not because of a storm, not because of thunder, but because life itself is becoming larger than it has ever dared to be. This is the dawn of the age of giants. But before the giants, before the great predators and thunder-footed titans we think of as dinosaurs, there was a different world, one of strange ancestors, hidden experiments of evolution, and creatures that seemed to be prototypes of the glory that was still to come. In the Triassic, the earth was a testing ground. Evolution was sketching ideas in the dust, revising, discarding, and refining. And out of this experimentation emerged creatures that would lay the foundation for everything we later call dinosaurs. Picture the land as a single vast continent, Pangaea. Stretching across almost the entire globe, it was a world both connected and cruel. Without oceans to soften the climate, Pangaea baked under relentless summers and froze during harsh winters. Rivers cut through deserts, droughts lasted years. And yet, even in this unforgiving environment, life flourished. Crocodile-like reptiles stalked the banks of ancient streams. Mammal-like synapsids, our own distant ancestors, scurried in the underbrush, clinging to survival. The stage was crowded, dangerous, and full of rival claimants to the throne of dominance. And in the middle of this brutal competition appeared something small, fragile-looking, but destined for greatness. Not a towering predator, not a hulking herbivore, just a lightly built, two-legged reptile, standing perhaps waist-high to a human. This was a Raptor, one of the earliest known dinosaurs. It lived over 230 million years ago. To look at it now, you wouldn't think it was special. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the fiercest. But it carried in its bones the blueprint of the future. Hollow bones for lightness, a bipedal stance for speed, hands with grasping fingers, a mouth lined with sharp serrated teeth. It was, in many ways, the spark of what was to come, a creature not yet famous, but quietly revolutionary. Still, Eoraptor wasn't alone. The early Triassic world was a kaleidoscope of bizarre and competing forms. There was Herrerasaurus, a predator longer and heavier, stalking prey with speed and ferocity, snapping its jaws with teeth sharp as knives. There were the first great plant eaters like Plesiosaurus, their long necks and massive bodies hinting at the giants that would later dominate the Jurassic. These weren't yet the dinosaurs we picture on movie screens, but they were shadows of the future, outlines of an age that had only just begun to dawn. And yet, the story of these shadows is also one of survival against near destruction. Because before dinosaurs could rise, they had to pass through fire. 60 million years earlier, at the end of the Permian period, Earth endured its greatest catastrophe, the Great Dying. Over 90% of life in the oceans vanished. Land animals fared little better. Imagine entire forests going silent, rivers drying into cracked wastelands, the air poisoned with volcanic gases. For a moment in Earth's history, life itself teetered on the edge of annihilation. It was out of this silence, this broken and scarred planet, that the shadows before time began to stir. When the Permian ended and the Triassic began, ecosystems reset like a clock rewound. The survivors were few, but they carried the seeds of everything that would follow. Among them were the ancestors of crocodiles, the ancestors of mammals, and those first small creatures that would one day become dinosaurs. And here's where the real wonder lies. Dinosaurs were never inevitable. They weren't destined to dominate from the start. For millions of years, they were underdogs, small runners darting in and out of the shadows of larger, more powerful reptiles. It's almost strange to think about. For much of the Triassic, dinosaurs were not the rulers. They were the hunted, not the hunters. So how did they rise? Why did the shadows grow into titans? The answer lies partly in chance and partly in design. Their bodies were built for efficiency. Light frames, upright legs that let them move faster and farther than their sprawling, crocodile-like competitors. Their lungs may have been more advanced, delivering oxygen in a way that allowed them to thrive even in thinner, hotter air. When droughts came, when forests burned, when ecosystems shifted, dinosaurs adapted. Slowly, steadily, quietly, they began to outlast the others. But survival alone wasn't enough. The world had to break again before they could rise. Near the end of the Triassic, Earth suffered yet another extinction event, this time wiping out many of the crocodile-like rulers of the time. Whole families of predators vanished almost overnight. And in the emptiness left behind, dinosaurs stepped forward. This is the moment when shadows truly became shapes, when whispers became voices. By the dawn of the Jurassic, dinosaurs were no longer just one of many players. They were the undisputed rulers. From Diplodocus to Stegosaurus, from swift raptors to massive sauropods, the age of giants had arrived. But let's not rush there too quickly. There's something haunting about these early beginnings, something that makes the shadows themselves as captivating as the giants they gave rise to. Because in those first fragile steps, in Eoraptor darting between ferns, in Herrerasaurus stalking its prey, lies the mystery of possibility. What if they hadn't survived? What if the world had tilted slightly differently? Could mammals, our ancestors, have risen sooner? Would Earth have been spared the thunder of titanic footsteps? Or would some entirely different lineage have claimed the throne? These are the questions that make the shadows before time so compelling. They remind us that history isn't written in stone until it happens. That dominance is fragile and survival is never guaranteed. Dinosaurs didn't march into history as conquerors. They stumbled, fought, clawed, and endured until, against all odds, they claimed the world. Standing here now, millions of years later, we look back and see only the glory. The tyrannosaurs, the brachiosaurs, the armored, the feathered, the winged. But in truth, their empire was born not in triumph, but in shadows. And perhaps that is what makes their story so human after all. Because aren't we too survivors of shadows? Aren't we here only because of chance, because of resilience, because of ancestors who clung to life when the world seemed to end? When we listen to the echoes of those early dinosaurs, fragile, uncertain, yet unyielding, we hear, faintly, the echoes of ourselves. The shadows before time still whisper if we listen closely. In the fossils buried deep beneath deserts, in the stones cracked open by paleontologists' hands, in the imprints of tiny clawed feet preserved in ancient mud. They remind us that every beginning is fragile, every empire temporary, every ruler only a survivor of chance. And yet, in those beginnings lies a kind of beauty. The beauty of persistence, the beauty of possibility, the beauty of shadows becoming giants. And as the Triassic sun sets in our imagination, and the whispers fade into silence, we know the story has only just begun. Chapter 2: The Star Hunters, 2,000 words. Night in the prehistoric world was unlike anything we can truly imagine today. The earth was alive with sounds that have long since vanished, deep-throated bellows echoing across primeval plains, the rustle of giant ferns shifting in the breeze, and the constant chorus of insects filling the warm air. But under the canvas of stars, when the sun dipped behind the horizon and shadows stretched across the land, a different cast of creatures emerged, hunters who thrived in the dark. Most people imagine dinosaurs basking in sunlight, their power and presence illuminated by the golden glow of day. Movies and textbooks almost always show them striding beneath clear skies. Yet, what about the hours when the world was cloaked in darkness? The truth is, night offered its own battlefield, its own hierarchy of power, and for many species, it was the perfect time to hunt. Think about it. If you lived in a world full of giant predators, wouldn't nighttime be both an opportunity and a risk? The cover of darkness allowed smaller, stealthier hunters to move undetected, while larger predators could rely on sheer strength to dominate even without the advantage of sight. And above them all, the stars shone down, the only lights guiding this ancient theater of survival. One of the most fascinating things about dinosaur paleontology is how scientists have begun to uncover evidence of nocturnal behavior. For years, we had no way of knowing what dinosaurs did after sunset. Fossils don't directly tell us if an animal hunted at night. But by studying the shape of dinosaur eye sockets and comparing them to modern birds and reptiles, researchers began to piece together the clues. Large eye sockets, for example, suggest better night vision. Take Truden, a small bird-like predator with unusually large eyes relative to its skull. Truden wasn't the largest or strongest hunter of its time, but its keen vision likely made it a master of the night. Imagine it moving silently through prehistoric forests, its feathers muffling the sound of its movement, scanning the ground for small mammals or lizards under the pale starlight. Truden's intelligence, often considered among the highest of all dinosaurs, gave it a distinct edge when the world was dark and quiet, but Truden was far from the only star hunter. In warm, humid regions, raptors such as Velociraptor or its larger cousins may have used twilight or moonlight to track prey. The cooling air of night would have made it easier to travel long distances without overheating. These predators, often painted as daytime killers, may just as easily have prowled in the shadows, using their sharp senses to detect movements most creatures would never notice. And then, there's the element of surprise. Darkness levels the playing field. A massive predator like Tyrannosaurus rex didn't need the cover of night. It was already the apex hunter of its ecosystem. But could it have used the veil of darkness to ambush even the most cautious herbivores? Some paleontologists think so. After all, modern crocodiles, relatives of dinosaurs, are extremely effective nocturnal hunters. They lurk, motionless, until the moment to strike arrives. If crocodiles thrive this way, why wouldn't some dinosaurs have taken advantage of similar tactics? But night wasn't only for predators. For the prey species, survival demanded constant awareness. Herds of hadrosaurs, the so-called duck-billed dinosaurs, likely relied on group living to stay safe. Under the stars, they would gather close, their bodies pressed together for protection, listening for the faintest crack of a twig. The smallest sound could mean death was approaching. Imagine being a young hadrosaur calf, eyes wide, trying to stay hidden beneath its mother's shadow while a predator silently circled nearby. The fear and tension of those nights must have been overwhelming, but it was also life. Another surprising aspect of the night was the sky itself. In the absence of human light pollution, the prehistoric night sky would have been blindingly brilliant, far more than we can see today. Rivers of stars stretched across the heavens, the Milky Way in full view, shooting stars streaking overhead. For the creatures below, it may have been a silent clock, a marker of time passing, a guide for migration, or perhaps even a tool for navigation. Some modern birds, descendants of dinosaurs, use the stars to migrate long distances. Could their ancient relatives have done the same? And then there were the sounds. Imagine lying in a forest 70 million years ago as night fell. The air buzzed with giant insects, some larger than your hand. Crocodilians bellowed from nearby rivers. Early mammals scurried through the undergrowth, cautious but determined. And then, from the darkness, came a chilling sound, the sharp, piercing cry of a raptor echoing through the trees, a sound that could freeze any creature in place. To the prey, those cries were warnings of death. To the predators they were signals, perhaps even ways of communicating with each other during the hunt. The night also allowed creatures that could never compete in daylight to emerge. Tiny lizards, mammals, and even primitive birds took advantage of the hours when the giants slept. Some of these small survivors would go on to outlast the dinosaurs themselves, inheriting the earth after the great extinction. In a way, the night belonged to them just as much as to the larger predators. What's fascinating is that we often think of dinosaurs only in the spectacle of day. Yet, in reality, half of their lives played out in darkness. Half of their battles, their hunts, their migrations, their struggles, all happened under the stars. To ignore this is to ignore half of their story. Picture this, a quiet prehistoric plain, the moon casting silver light over a herd of grazing herbivores. Suddenly, a rustle from the edge of the forest. Truden's eyes glow faintly, catching the light, scanning for weakness. A calf strays too far from the herd. In the blink of an eye, silence breaks into chaos. The hunters close in, swift and calculated. Within minutes, the herd scatters, their calls filling the night. The stars above remain unchanged, indifferent, as the drama unfolds below. The night was never peaceful in the age of dinosaurs. It was alive with tension, filled with secrets we are only just beginning to uncover. When we look up at the stars today, we're seeing the same sky that watched over those ancient hunters. The same constellations that guided modern birds once, shone down on Truden and Velociraptor as they prowled through shadows. In a way, the night sky is the one prehistoric witness that never disappeared. And so, when you think of dinosaurs, don't just picture them in blazing sunlight, locked in battles on open plains. Imagine them under the stars, their eyes glinting in the darkness, their movements cloaked in silence, their survival hanging on the edge of shadow and light. Because the night belonged to them too. Chapter 2, The Forest of Giants. Deep in the Cretaceous world, where the air hung heavy with the scent of pine and fern, there stood living skyscrapers. Not the steel towers we know today, but creatures of flesh, bone, and thunderous footsteps. Dinosaurs so tall, so vast, they made the forest itself tremble when they passed through. This was the realm of the giant sauropods, the long-necked behemoths that reigned over prehistoric landscapes. Imagine standing at the base of a tree in this forest. You crane your neck upward, expecting to see branches. Instead, you find yourself staring into the massive body of an Argentinosaurus, an animal stretching more than 100 feet long and weighing as much as 10 elephants. Its shadow alone could darken the forest floor. Every breath it took sent vibrations into the ground, a deep, resonating hum of life at a scale almost too immense to comprehend. Yet, these creatures weren't monsters. They were grazers. Their long necks arched like living cranes, sweeping through treetops to pluck leaves high above the reach of smaller herbivores. They didn't hunt. They didn't fight for prey. Instead, they ruled through sheer size by existing at a scale beyond challenge. But the forest of giants wasn't silent. For every sauropod that lumbered through, there were smaller voices in the choir of life. Insects buzzed at the edges of ponds. Crocodile-like creatures lurked in waterways, watching carefully as colossal legs stirred the mud. Herds of hadrosaurs duck-billed. Plant eaters kept their distance, feeding on low vegetation that giants couldn't reach. And above, in the canopy, the earliest birds darted between branches, almost insignificant against the backdrop of necks that stretched higher than rooftops. Giants were never alone. They moved in herds families, stretching across valleys like a living tide. Their migrations reshaped entire landscapes. A forest stripped of leaves on one side could be left barren within days, forcing these titans to march on, seeking new grounds. With every step, they sculpted the earth, knocking down trees, churning riversides into swamps, and fertilizing the land with their colossal waste. Theirs was not just survival, it was ecosystem engineering. But life at this scale came with vulnerability. For all their size, sauropods faced relentless challenges. Eggs-laden nests were fragile, buried in sand or vegetation mounds to hide them from sharp-eyed predators. Hatchlings, no bigger than a small dog, scurried desperately for cover, hoping to avoid the jaws of raptors or the crushing teeth of crocodiles. Only a tiny fraction survived to adulthood, but those that did grew into unstoppable forces of nature, predators. Two haunted the forest of giants. Carnivores like Maposaurus, a relative of the mighty T-Rex, stalked in coordinated packs, perhaps capable of bringing down even a juvenile sauropod. Imagine the courage it would take for a predator, no bigger than a bus, to throw itself against a mountain of muscle and bone. These hunts were not guaranteed victories. For every predator that tried, many limped away with broken teeth, shattered bones, or worse still, the giants endured. Their sheer numbers, their herding instincts, and their growth rates ensured that no predator could ever wipe them out completely. They lived in rhythms older than human imagination: graze, migrate, breed, survive. They were too vast to ignore, too essential to the balance of their world. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it, the sound of their world. The low-frequency rumbles of sauropods communicating like wails through the forest, vibrations, traveling across miles. The creaking of trees as necks pushed through canopies. The splash of water as a titan lowered its head to drink, nostrils flaring as it inhaled gallons of air. The forest of giants wasn't just home to dinosaurs. It was a stage where scale itself was redefined, where the impossible became ordinary. Here, life dared to stretch beyond the limits, and in doing so, it left us with fossils that still baffle and inspire. And yet, as immense as these creatures were, they were not the only wonders of their time. Because beyond the forests, another mystery stirred hidden beneath waves, in oceans darker and deeper than any forest could ever reach. The giants of the land were about to give way to the shadows of the sea. Chapter 3: Ocean Shadows Beneath the Rolling Waves of the Cretaceous Seas. Where sunlight fractured into streaks of silver and blue, another world thrived. A world just as vast, just as terrifying, and just as beautiful as the forests of giants. But here, in the oceans, size and power took on new forms. It was a kingdom of shadows where hunters glided silently, prey darted for cover, and survival was written in the currents. Imagine diving below the surface. The first thing you notice is the silence. No bird calls, no thunderous footsteps, only the muffled hum of water pressing in from all sides. Then, from the gloom, it appears, the outline of a mosasaurus. Longer than a bus, its jaws lined with conical teeth, it ruled the seas as mercilessly as T-Rex ruled the land. With a single flick of its tail, it surged forward, moving with lethal grace, its massive body disappearing back into the shadows. But the mosasaurus was not alone. The oceans were filled with giants and monsters of their own. Ichthyosaurs, dolphin-shaped reptiles with enormous eyes, chased shoals of fish, darting with the speed of torpedoes. Plesiosaurs with long serpentine necks wove silently through the depths, using their four paddle-like flippers to dance between light and dark. Some stretched over 40 feet, and when their heads broke the surface for air, They created ripples that would have terrified any creature watching from shore. Above, pterosaurs skimmed the waves, their wings casting fleeting shadows across the surface before plunging down to snatch unsuspecting fish. But these were only visitors. The true rulers were the reptiles that had abandoned land altogether, choosing instead the weightless domain of the sea. In these waters, danger was constant. Schools of ammonites, the spiral-shelled relatives of squid, drifted in dazzling displays, their shells glimmering like coins scattered across the seafloor. They were beautiful, but they were prey, and predators lurked everywhere. A plesiosaur might suddenly strike from below, its jaws snapping like a steel trap. Or a pack of smaller mosasaurs might rise from the darkness, coordinated and ruthless, overwhelming their target with precision. The ocean's scale dwarfed even the forests of giants. On land you could see the horizon, the trees, the mountains. But here, nothing marked the limits. The sea stretched endlessly in all directions. Darkness fell quickly. Beyond a few hundred feet, sunlight vanished, replaced by a blackness so complete it felt eternal. And yet, even in these depths, life found a way. Strange, glowing organisms floated in the currents, their bioluminescent lights blinking like stars in an alien sky. Tiny shrimp, glowing jellyfish, and predatory fish with lantern-like lures created a nightscape unlike anything above. The great predators depended on these hidden worlds. Mosasaurs, for instance, could dive deep to pursue prey that never saw daylight. Their massive lungs allowed them to hold their breath for long stretches, and their streamlined bodies cut through the water like torpedoes. Imagine a 50-foot hunter sweeping silently through a black abyss, rows of teeth glinting in faint glimmers of bioluminescence, an assassin in a place where no sound escaped. But for all their power, even the rulers of the sea had to respect the balance. A wounded predator could quickly become prey itself. Blood in the water sent signals for miles, and within minutes, swarms of sharks, mosasaurs, and scavengers descended in a frenzy. Survival here wasn't just about strength. It was about awareness, timing, and the ability to strike before being struck. The ocean was also a cradle of change. Here, evolution pushed boundaries in ways land could not. Fish developed armor-like scales, ammonites experimented with shell shapes, and marine reptiles evolved in dazzling variety. Some had short necks, built for speed and brute strength. Others grew impossibly long necks, trading power for reach and precision. And at the very top, the mosasaurs perfected their dominance with adaptations that mirrored the sharks and whales. That would come long after them. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself floating in that water, surrounded by silence. Then movement. A shadow sliding past, too big to measure, too fast to follow. The ocean itself seems alive, every current, every ripple hiding a story. A fin breaks the surface in the distance, followed by a crash of water as a predator lunges into the air, its jaws snapping shut around a fish. The spray falls like rain, and just as suddenly as it appeared, the monster vanishes again. The oceans of the Cretaceous were a reminder that life is never confined to one realm. On land, sauropods shook the ground with their steps. In the skies, pterosaurs painted arcs against the sun. But in the seas, shadows told the stories. A theater of silence and sudden violence, where survival meant gliding unseen until the exact moment to strike. And as the sun set on the water, casting the surface into fire and gold, the world of shadows below carried on, indifferent, eternal. Chapter 4. The sky rulers high above the forests and seas of the Mesozoic, where the wind swept unbroken for miles, another kingdom reigned. It was a realm without roots or tides, a domain of air and light. Here, in the endless sky, lived the rulers who had mastered what no dinosaur on land could claim, the power of flight. Look up and the first impression is scale. A shadow glides across the ground, wide as a house roof. Then, with a tilt of enormous wings, it rises higher, higher, until it vanishes against the clouds. This is Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying creature ever known. With wings stretching more than 35 feet across, it was as tall as a giraffe when standing, yet as light as the breeze it commanded. When it launched from the ground, it did not simply leap, it vaulted with its powerful forelimbs, pushing into the air before the wind caught its vast sails. In seconds, it was gone, leaving only the whisper of its passage. The sky was not the empty void it seems to us now. It was alive with motion, filled with hunters, scavengers, and wanderers who used the currents as roads. Pterosaurs, the flying reptiles, had been perfecting flight for over 150 million years by the time Quetzalcoatlus soared. They came in astonishing forms, some tiny as sparrows, darting between trees in search of insects. Others monstrous, with wings wider than 2 cars parked end to end, gliding effortlessly for miles at a time. These rulers of the air were not birds, though they would share the sky with their feathered cousins. Pterosaurs had thin, leathery wings stretched across elongated fingers. Their bones were hollow and strong, designed for lightness, yet their muscles were immense, giving them power to launch, climb, and dive. At rest, they seemed awkward, moving on all fours across the ground, but once airborne, they transformed into the most graceful of all prehistoric creatures. The skies were highways connecting ecosystems. Over the forests of giants, pterosaurs glided between tree canopies, their eyes scanning for small prey. Over the oceans, they wheeled and dove, skimming fish from the waves with precision. Imagine standing on a cliffside. The horizon is alive with their forms spiraling, coasting, rising on thermals. Each silhouette tells a different story. Some with long, narrow wings adapted for endurance, others with short, broad wings built for maneuvering through mountain winds. But life in the air was never without risk. To fly meant exposure. A sudden gust of wind could spell disaster, sending a pterosaur spiraling toward the ground. Predators lurked below, waiting for such mistakes. Even other pterosaurs clashed in the skies, their beaks snapping and wings beating as they fought for territory. Blood could fall like rain during these midder duels, quickly swallowed by the earth or sea below. Still, for every danger, the sky offered freedom beyond compare. A pterosaur could cover miles in minutes, scouting for carrion, stalking fish, or simply searching for new roosting grounds. Many species likely migrated with the seasons, following herds or fish shoals across vast distances. From high above, they would have seen the earth in its entirety, herds moving across plains, predators stalking riversides, volcanoes rising in the distance. The sky gave them perspective no land dweller could ever imagine, and yet the air was not theirs alone. Birds had begun to appear, small feathered creatures flitting through branches and across open spaces. At first, they were no threat, but slowly, silently, they adapted, growing faster, more agile, more efficient. In time, they would inherit the sky entirely. But for now, during the late Cretaceous, the pterosaurs still held dominion, their shadows sweeping across land and sea alike. Imagine the spectacle. The sun rising over a primeval landscape, golden light spilling across the horizon. Out of the mist, shapes emerged, dozens of pterosaurs launching from their cliffside nests. Their wings catch the morning air, each beat sending them higher, until the sky itself seems alive with movement. They scatter in all directions, some toward the forest, some toward the sea, some simply riding the thermals higher and higher, disappearing into the brilliance of the sun. They were the sky rulers, creatures that turned the heavens into their hunting ground, their battlefield, and their sanctuary. Though their reign would end, their legacy remains every time a bird cuts across the sky. For in every flap of a wing, there's an echo of the ancient rulers who once owned the air. Chapter 5, Echoes of the Hunt. Their earth was never silent. Beneath the whisper of leaves, beyond the hiss of the wind, another sound lingered, one older than words, more primal than fire. It was the sound of the hunt, an echo that shaped every moment of life in the age of dinosaurs. Prey moved with caution because predators stalked in shadows. Predators honed their senses because survival depended on the chase. Imagine standing on the banks of a wide, muddy river at dusk. Herds of hadrosaurs graze nearby, their crests resonating with low, humming calls that ripple across the plain. They seem calm, but their ears twitch. Every snap of a branch sends a ripple of unease through the group. They know something waits. Somewhere in the undergrowth, the echo of a predator's steps has already begun. The hunters of this world came in many forms. Some were solitary, like the nimble Velociraptor, its sickle claw raised like a hidden dagger. It moved not with sound, but with silence, each breath controlled, each step calculated. Others worked in groups, their strength not in stealth, but in coordination. Picture a pack of Deinonychus weaving through trees, eyes locked on a single young herbivore. They spread out, flank it, drive it forward until escape routes vanish. Then, the silence breaks into chaos screams, thrashing, tearing. The hunt reaches its climax, and the echo of it carries far into the night. But not all predators were swift and cunning. Some relied on sheer power. The great tyrannosaurs, with jaws strong enough to crush bone, did not need subtlety. When Tyrannosaurus Rex entered the hunt, its presence alone sent waves of terror across the land. Smaller animals froze or fled, even other predators gave way. A single charge, a snap of its jaws, and the struggle ended before it had truly begun. The echo of that impact, bone against teeth, flesh against earth, was one the Mesozoic never forgot. Yet, to understand the hunt, one must also see the hunted. The echoes carried not only the victory of predators, but the desperation of prey. Herds did not graze idly. They lived by vigilance, every eye scanning, every ear tuned to the faintest sound. The duck-billed hadrosaurs evolved in numbers, safety. In herds, ankylosaurs bore armor thick as iron, turning their bodies into living fortresses. Even the mighty ceratopsians carried spears on their skulls, ready to turn pursuit into bloodshed. The hunt was never certain. Many predators died in the attempt. The struggle itself, not just the kill, left its mark across the land. These battles echoed beyond the moment. Tracks pressed into mud told stories of the chase, the path of flight, the angle of pursuit, the clash where predator met prey. Fossilized bones revealed teeth marks, evidence of desperate struggles locked in stone. Every echo of the hunt, whether in sound or in trace, became part of the landscape, shaping how animals lived, moved, and evolved. Now close your eyes and listen. The forest hums with insects, frogs croak in the marsh. But faintly, beneath it all, there is another sound, the sharp exhale of breath, the crack of a twig, the tightening of silence before violence erupts. These are the echoes of the hunt, timeless, relentless, unavoidable. Life in the age of dinosaurs meant to hunt or be hunted, to chase or to flee, to live with the awareness that death was always near. And as the night falls over the ancient world, the echoes do not fade. They ripple across the plains, through the forests, and over the rivers, reminding every creature of its place in the eternal struggle. The echoes of the hunt belong to predator and prey alike, carried forever on. The wind of Prehistory. Chapter 6, Songs of Survival. Life in the Age of Dinosaurs was not only defined by teeth and claws. It was also shaped by sound. The ancient world was filled with voices, calls, cries, and rhythms that echoed through forests, plains, and swamps. These sounds were not random noise. They were messages, warnings, invitations, and songs of survival. Picture the first light of dawn spreading across a Cretaceous valley. Mist clings to the marshes as herds of hadrosaurs stir. From their crested skulls rises a haunting call, deep and resonant, like a horn rolling across the land. These hollow crests were not just ornaments, they were instruments, tuned to carry sound for miles. A single bellow from one animal could summon its herd, warn of danger, or declare strength to rivals. To live was to listen, and to survive was to respond. Dinosaurs sang in many ways. The armored stegosaurs, though not gifted with loud voices, may have used their tail spikes and plates as visual warnings, their movements echoing as signals to keep predators at bay. Raptors, sleek and agile, likely hissed and shrieked, their cries sharp enough to freeze prey in place. Even the giants, the sauropods, may have used deep, rumbling sounds, so low they traveled through the ground itself, vibrations felt in the bones of creatures miles away. These were the bass notes of prehistory, a hidden song beneath the surface of the earth. But songs of survival were not only about communication, they were also about deception. Imagine a predator crouched in the reeds, mimicking the calls of a young hadrosaur to lure adults closer, or prey animals lifting their voices together in panic, creating a wall of sound so overwhelming that a hunter loses focus. Sound was both weapon and shield, both truth and trickery. Beyond the dinosaurs themselves, the world around them added its own instruments. Insects hummed in vast swarms, their buzzing thick as storm clouds. Frogs croaked in chorus from the edges of ponds. Primitive mammals chirped and squeaked, their tiny voices hidden beneath the greater songs of reptiles. Even the wind through ancient conifers whistled like a flute, and volcanic ground sometimes groaned like distant drums. Together, these sounds created a living symphony, an ancient orchestra where every creature played a part. Survival often depended on listening more than seeing. In dense forests, predators struck before prey could spot them, but a sharp ear might detect the rustle of leaves or the faint click of claws. On open plains, a low call in the distance could guide herds to safety long before danger arrived. Silence, too, was part of the song. When birds vanished from the sky or frogs fell quiet, animals knew a hunter approached. Sometimes screamed louder than sound. These songs linger even now. Fossil evidence captures not just bones, but impressions of resonating crests, inner ear structures, and even feather arrangements that once carried sound. Paleontologists reconstruct these voices, turning stone into music, guessing at the rhythms that once defined survival. Though we cannot hear the exact calls, we can imagine them: the deep rumble of a sauropod, the trumpeting cries of hadrosaurs, the shrill screams of predators in the night. Close your eyes. Let the ancient songs rise around you. Hear the booming horn of a hadrosaur echo across a river valley. Hear the warning cries of pterosaurs wheeling overhead. Hear the sudden hush as a predator enters the clearing. Every sound is a message, and every message is a reminder. To live in this world was to sing, to listen, and to never forget that silence could be the last note of all. The songs of survival did not fade with the dinosaurs. They remain within the earth, within the echoes of fossils, within the instincts of modern animals. Birds sing their dawn choruses, crocodiles bellow across rivers, elephants rumble through the ground, living relics of the same language that shaped the Mesozoic. The voices of survival still carry on the wind, ancient songs that time itself could not silence. Chapter 7. The desert breathes. The desert is often imagined as empty, lifeless, and silent. Yet in the age of dinosaurs, even the harshest deserts were alive. Beneath the blazing sun, among dunes that shifted like oceans of sand, life carved out a way to endure. The desert did not stand still, it breathed. Every gust of wind, every shimmer of heat, every step of claw or hoof carried the pulse of survival. Picture a late Cretaceous desert at midday. The horizon shimmers in waves of heat. Sand grains hiss across the ground, whipped by wind. Out of this mirage, shapes appear: creatures adapted to thrive where water is scarce and shade even rarer. Small ornithopods huddle beneath the shadow of thorny plants, their bodies low to the ground, conserving energy. Larger predators stalk the shifting dunes, their footsteps silent, waiting for weakness to reveal itself. The desert demanded resilience. Each animal bore the mark of adaptation. Some were fast, sprinting across dunes before the heat consumed them. Others burrowed deep into the ground, retreating into cool darkness until nightfall. Even plants had their defenses: thick bark, tough leaves, hidden roots that reached deep for moisture buried far below. Life bent, but it did not break. The breath of the desert could be violent. Storms rolled across the sands without warning, whipping the land into chaos. Entire herds were swallowed in blinding clouds of dust, predators and prey alike forced to pause until the storm passed. Yet within these tempests lay opportunity. Scavengers waited at the edges, ready to feed on those too weak to continue. In a land of extremes, survival meant seizing every moment. No matter how fleeting, night in the desert was another world. The heat bled away, and the sands grew cold under starlight. The air filled with sound-chirping insects, rustling lizards, and the distant cries of nocturnal hunters. Small dinosaurs emerged from burrows, their eyes wide to drink in what little light the moon offered. Mammals scurried in the dark, nibbling seeds and insects, vanishing at the slightest sound. The desert's breath slowed, softer now, but still alive. To survive here was to move with rhythm. Drink when rain fell, even if it meant traveling for days. Feed in the cool hours of dawn and dusk, when the sun's fire was weakest. Hide during the burning hours, when even the wind seemed too hot to touch. Life pulsed in cycles, and those who failed to follow the desert's breath faded into its sands. Even fossils carry whispers of this survival. Tracks of small herds winding toward vanished waterholes. Burrows left behind by creatures that tunneled beneath the surface. Skeletons buried in dunes, their bones smoothed by wind over millions of years. They remind us that this was never a dead land. It was a shifting stage where life and death played out with quiet intensity. The desert was not just a place. It was a force. It tested, shaped, and defined every creature that dared to live within. Its breath was both harsh and vital, carrying dust, carrying silence, carrying the memory of survival through endless time. And even today, when wind sweeps across modern deserts, stirring dust into the air, it is as though the land still breathes with the ghosts of its ancient inhabitants. The desert remembers, and in every shifting dune, it still whispers the story of those who endured its fire. Chapter 8: Frozen Worlds. When we think of dinosaurs, we imagine steaming jungles, buzzing swamps, or vast plains glowing in sunlight. Rarely do we imagine snow, rarely do we imagine ice. Yet in the age of dinosaurs, the earth was not just warm and green, it was also cold, white, and harsh. At the planet's poles, dinosaurs lived in frozen worlds, places where winter nights lasted for months, and survival required more than strength. It demanded endurance. Picture the far north of the Cretaceous. Snowflakes spiral down from a gray sky, settling onto pine trees heavy with frost. The sun barely rises above the horizon, casting a dim, weak glow. Herds of small herbivorous dinosaurs trudge through the snow, their breath puffing in clouds. They scrape at frozen ground for what little food they can find: roots, twigs, bark, anything to keep going. Predators follow their trails, patient and hungry, blending into the stillness of the snow-covered forest. These were not temporary visitors. Fossils tell us they lived here year-round. Whole herds grew up beneath months of twilight and endured winters of deep cold. Their bones, buried in ancient polar sediments, carry signs of adaptation: growth rings showing seasonal slowdowns, evidence that life itself bent to the rhythm of long, dark winters. For small dinosaurs, survival may have meant feathers, not just for flight, but for warmth. Imagine tiny, bird-like hunters with downy coats, darting across the snow in search of insects hiding under bark. Their feathers trapped heat like insulation, turning icy nights into something survivable. For larger dinosaurs, survival meant herds. By staying together, They found safety and warmth, moving as one across the frozen landscape. The frozen world was not silent. Even in the cold, life persisted. Streams cut through sheets of ice, carrying fish beneath their surfaces. Ferns and hardy shrubs clung to the soil where the sun's weak light could still reach. Mammals burrowed beneath snowdrifts, waking only to forage under the stars. Every heartbeat here was a testament to persistence, but the cold carried danger. Winter storms swept through the forests, burying the land in ice. Food ran scarce, and only the strongest or the smartest could endure until spring. Predators thrived on the weak, their sharp eyes catching the slow steps of starving prey. The frozen world demanded sacrifices. Every season tested the balance between survival and extinction. And yet, when spring finally returned, the land awakened in a rush. Rivers broke free from ice, flooding valleys with life. Trees budded, flowers spread, and herds fattened on new growth. For a short time, the frozen world transformed into a paradise green, alive and filled with song. But all who lived here knew it was temporary. Soon the sun would fade again, and the long night would return. The fossils remind us, dinosaurs were not just tropical giants. They were survivors of extremes. They walked through snow. They endured the dark. They thrived in the frozen edges of the earth. Their worlds were not all warmth. They were worlds of cold fire, of silence, of ice. Frozen world of the dinosaurs shows us something deeper. Life adapts. Life endures. And even in the harshest places, where the land seems still and unforgiving, the earth breathes with quiet persistence. These frozen lands, though harsh and distant, were alive. And through their bones, through their memory, they still are. Chapter 9. Fire and ash. The earth itself could roar. Mountains trembled, the ground shook, and rivers boiled with fury. Volcanoes erupted with spectacular violence, sending fire and ash skyward in choking clouds. These were the cathedrals of chaos, and the age of dinosaurs witnessed them in full force. Life did not stop for lava. It adapted, endured, and sometimes simply ran. Picture a Cretaceous landscape under a crimson sky. Smoke coils from fissures in the earth, and ash drifts like snow across forests and plains. Rivers of molten rock carve new valleys, reshaping the terrain in hours that would take millennia in calmer times. Herds of herbivores move nervously, ears flicking, nostrils flaring, as tremors pass beneath their feet. Predators sense opportunity amid the upheaval, stalking weaker or disoriented animals as the land convulses around them. Volcanic worlds were dangerous, but also fertile. When the fury subsided, ash-enriched soils nurtured rapid growth. New plants sprouted across the devastated landscapes, attracting herbivores eager to feed, and the predators followed. These cycles of destruction and rebirth shaped ecosystems, favoring creatures that could move, adapt, and survive in uncertainty. Dinosaurs themselves show remarkable evidence of adaptation to these fiery worlds. Fossils buried in volcanic ash reveal entire herds preserved in place, frozen mid-motion, giving us intimate glimpses of their behavior during catastrophe. Some perished in the heat, others escaped to safer lands, and yet others thrived in the recovering forests. Even the smallest dinosaur learned to navigate danger, from seeking shelter in valleys to avoiding lava flows entirely. The chaos of shifting continents added another layer. Tectonic plates were moving faster than today, raising mountains, opening seas, and creating land bridges that connected continents previously isolated. Dinosaurs migrated, populations mixed, and new species emerged as landscapes transformed around them. The fire and ash were catalysts for evolution, reshaping the map of life across the planet. Nightfall did not bring respite. Volcanoes glowed in the distance, painting the skies in molten reds and oranges. The ash settled like snow, coating leaves and footprints. Predators prowled through smoke-filled forests, their senses tuned to both smell and sight in a world of obscured visibility. Prey animals adapted with keener instincts, relying on memory, herd strategy, and alertness to survive. Every day was a test, every breath a negotiation with a world in upheaval. Yet within the chaos, life persisted. Rivers cut new paths, plants recolonized, and small mammals and reptiles took advantage of niches left by the shifting dinosaurs. The Earth's fiery pulse, destructive as it was, also drove creativity and survival, pushing species to innovate or vanish. The volcanic world reminds us that life is never static. Earth's power, terrifying and beautiful, shaped evolution as profoundly as any predator. Fire and ash were not mere obstacles. They were the forge in which resilience, adaptation, and survival were hammered into every creature that walked, swam, or flew across this extraordinary planet. And as the ash settles over time, forming layers that preserve history for millions of years, the stories of survival remain. Every fossil, every trace, every echo of life is a testament to endurance in a world of fire and chaos. The earth breathed fire, but life found a way to rise from the ashes. Chapter 10. The Star Hunters. When the sun dipped below the horizon, the world transformed. Shadows deepened, the air cooled, and a different kind of life emerged. The nocturnal predators, the star hunters, took their places in a stage lit not by day, but by the brilliance of ancient skies. Stars, brighter than anything we see today, glimmered above, and the hunt began. Imagine a moonlit forest in the late Cretaceous. Mist curls along riverbanks, and the call of distant insects fills the air. Tiny eyes reflect pinpoints of starlight, as a pack of raptors moves silently through the underbrush. They are hunters by instinct, home to thrive when the world sleeps. Their senses sharpen keen hearing, acute vision, and an uncanny ability to read the faintest rustle of prey. In the cover of night, the smallest movement becomes a signal, every sound amplified by the quiet. But nocturnal life was not limited to raptors. Larger predators, like small tyrannosaurids or fierce crocodilian relatives, prowled riverbanks and marshes, their eyes glowing in the dim light. Pterosaurs, some adapted for twilight flight, skimmed the treetops or coasted over open plains, taking advantage of cooler air currents and the cover of darkness. Even in the sky, hunting continued, a ballet of shadow and motion above the sleeping lands. Night was both ally and threat. Prey animals had evolved extraordinary strategies to survive these hours. Many had heightened senses themselves, large eyes to see in low light, acute hearing to detect approaching danger, and social behaviors that allowed herd vigilance. The ancient night was a chessboard, and every movement carried life or death consequences. The brilliance of the night sky guided these hunters. Constellations we can barely imagine today shimmered over vast plains, offering natural light and orientation. Predators could follow rivers, mountains, and even distant stars to locate food. The stars became their compass, their silent partners in the ancient hunt. But the darkness was not merely a hunting ground, it was also a stage of mystery. Silent forests concealed insects, mammals, and reptiles of all sizes. Rivers murmured with nocturnal amphibians. The whisper of leaves and the shimmer of starlight created an environment alive with movement and opportunity. Every predator and prey alike adapted to this hidden, luminous world. To witness the star hunters is to understand the delicate balance of night. Every swoop of a pterosaur, every darting raptor, every cautious step of a small herbivore is part of an unseen symphony. Life thrived in ways we rarely imagine, proving that the darkness was not empty, it was filled with purpose, strategy, and survival. And as the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, the hunters retreat, shadows dissolve, and the ancient world awakens to a new day. But the memory of the night lingers, the echo of claws, wings, and silent steps beneath the stars, reminding us that the hunt never truly ends, it only changes its light. Chapter 11. Echoes of the Nest. Life is not only about survival, it is also about care, connection, and the bonds that tie families together. In the ancient world of dinosaurs, the nest was more than a simple clutch of eggs. It was a stage for tenderness, strategy, and the echoes of life itself. Here, amidst forests, plains, and riverbanks, dinosaurs revealed a surprisingly gentle side. Picture a shallow depression in the ground, lined with leaves and twigs. Within, a clutch of eggs rests, each one delicate, yet full of promise. A parent looms nearby, not a fearsome hunter in this moment, but a guardian. Many dinosaurs, from the small theropods to the massive sauropods, invested time and energy into protecting their young. Fossilized nests show evidence of careful arrangement, of eggs placed strategically to regulate temperature, and of multiple visits over days and weeks to ensure safety. The care went beyond mere guarding. Some species may have warmed their eggs, much like modern birds, using their bodies as natural incubators. Others likely monitored environmental conditions, adjusting their nests when floods or storms threatened. Even predators respected the nest, wary of the protective adults that circled relentlessly. The echoes of this vigilance resounded across generations. Communication within these families was subtle but profound. Hatchlings may have chirped to signal hunger or distress. Adults responded with gentle nudges or calls, guiding their young through the first precarious steps into a dangerous world. Imagine a tiny Protoceratops following its parent through dense foliage, learning to identify food, avoid threats, and navigate its home. Every interaction built skills essential for survival. Yet, not all parental strategies were the same. Some dinosaurs left their young to fend for themselves after hatching, relying on numbers or instinct to carry them through early life. Others remained intimately involved for weeks or even months, forming bonds surprisingly reminiscent of modern birds and mammals. Fossil evidence of adults crouched protectively over eggs, or juveniles found in close proximity to adults, paints a vivid picture of these early family dynamics. The nest was also a place of learning. Hatchlings observed hunting, feeding, and social behaviors directly from parents or older siblings. These early lessons were critical. The world beyond the nest was full of dangers, from predators to environmental hazards. By staying close, the young gained knowledge that could mean the difference between life and death. Interestingly, nests themselves reveal a story of cooperation. Some species nested in colonies, with dozens of nests clustered together. In such communities, the echoes of protection, warning calls, and shared vigilance amplified survival chances. Predators faced more than one defender, and young had the benefit of nearby neighbors to learn from, creating a network of prehistoric teamwork. But tenderness did not exclude peril. Life in the nest was fragile. Not all eggs hatched, not all hatchlings survived. Predators, disease, or environmental stress took their toll. Yet, the persistence of nesting behavior across millions of years shows the evolutionary payoff. Those who nurtured their young increased the odds of passing on their genes. To witness the echoes of the nest is to see the ancient world in a new light, not merely a battlefield of survival, but a place where care and strategy intertwined. It reminds us that even in a world dominated by giants and predators, small gestures, protection, and attention to the next generation were just as powerful as claws or teeth. And as time passed, these echoes influenced evolution itself. Parenting behaviors shaped survival, communication, and social structures, leaving a legacy visible in birds today, the living descendants of these extraordinary families. From the careful arrangement of eggs to the first cautious steps of hatchlings, the nest carries a story of life's resilience, patience, and surprisingly tender bonds. Chapter 12. Ancient neighbors. Dinosaurs did not exist in isolation. Their world teemed with other creatures, mammals, crocodiles, insects, and an astonishing variety of life forms that shared the same forests, plains, and waterways. Understanding these ancient neighbors reveals the complex web of life that shaped survival in the Mesozoic. Picture a riverbank in the late Cretaceous. Alongside towering sauropods and herds of hadrosaurs, small mammals scurry beneath the ferns, unnoticed by the giants above. These early mammals were tiny, nocturnal, and resourceful, finding insects, seeds, and shelter where dinosaurs never tread. They thrived in niches left untouched by larger reptiles, demonstrating that even the smallest creatures played a vital role in this ecosystem. Crocodilian relatives lurked in rivers and swamps, their armored bodies blending seamlessly with rocks and reeds. Some were massive, capable of ambushing unsuspecting dinosaurs that approached the water to drink. Others were smaller, agile hunters, snatching fish or amphibians with lightning reflexes. The interactions between these creatures and dinosaurs were subtle, yet crucial. Prey for one, competitor or threat for another. Insects were everywhere, forming the foundation of countless food chains. Swarms of beetles, ants, and primitive bees buzzed through trees and ferns, pollinating plants, decomposing organic matter, and providing sustenance for small reptiles, mammals, and even some dinosaurs. Their hum may have been constant background noise, but it carried life-giving energy throughout the ecosystems. Bird-like pterosaurs patrolled the skies, their aerial skills unmatched by any other creature. While some feasted on fish, others may have scavenged or preyed on smaller terrestrial animals. Their presence shaped behavior on the ground, forcing dinosaurs to adapt, stay alert, or move in synchronized herds to reduce vulnerability. Even within the soil, life thrived. Burrowing creatures, from small mammals to insects, turned the earth, aerated soil, and created complex underground networks. These burrows provided shelter, refuge, and hidden hunting grounds, contributing to the layered, interconnected nature of Mesozoic habitats. Predation, competition, and cooperation all played out among these ancient neighbors. Dinosaurs might inadvertently crush a nest of insects or disturb the hunting path of a crocodile, yet these interactions fostered resilience and adaptation. Each species influenced the others in ways that sculpted the evolution of entire ecosystems. Legacy of these neighbors extends beyond fossils. Traces of their interactions, bite marks, burrows, and fossilized stomach contents tell stories of survival strategies, predator-prey dynamics, and ecological balance. They remind us that the age of dinosaurs was not solely about giants. It was a world rich with diversity, subtle connections, and life in every corner. Large and small alike. As night falls in these ancient landscapes, the chorus of life continues. Mammals scurry, insects hum, amphibians croak, and distant dinosaurs move through shadows. Each creature plays a role, each interaction echoes through time, and together they form the intricate, enduring tapestry of prehistoric life. Chapter 13. Twilight across the plains as the sun dips low on the horizon. The Great Plains of the Cretaceous glow in molten gold and amber. Shadows stretch long across the grasslands, and the air begins to cool. This is a moment of transition, where the day's energy slows and the ancient world prepares for night. Twilight is more than beauty, it is a signal, a rhythm of life that governs the movements, behaviors, and interactions of countless creatures. Herds of hadrosaurs and ceratopsians move with deliberate calm, their massive forms casting long silhouettes against the fading light. Adults guide the young toward feeding grounds or water sources, teaching them to navigate terrain that can be treacherous even in daylight. Predators, too, adjust their strategies. Some pause, taking advantage of the fauna low light to stalk prey more stealthily, while others wait patiently for complete darkness to fall. The plains themselves seem alive. Winds stir the grasses, creating waves of motion that ripple like water across the land. Birds and small dinosaurs take cover, their rustling steps blending with the whisper of leaves and reeds. Insects hum softly, a subtle chorus that underscores The calm before night. Every sound, every movement carries significance. Survival depends not only on strength, but on awareness, timing, and keen perception. Waterholes glimmer in the twilight, reflecting skies painted with oranges, pinks, and purples. This is a gathering place, both vital and dangerous. Herbivores approach cautiously, heads raised to detect predators. Crocodile relatives slip silently through the shallows, barely disturbing the water, their presence known only to the keenest eyes. Every creature treads a delicate balance between thirst and caution. Twilight is also a moment of learning and social connection. Young dinosaurs practice grazing, walking, and mimicking adult behaviors. Herd cohesion is reinforced, and bonds within family units deepen. This is a time of teaching, of passing knowledge from one generation to the next, how to move safely, how to detect danger, and how to survive in a world where every hour is precious. The fading light transforms the landscape into a living painting. Trees and shrubs cast elongated shadows, rivers catch the sun's last gleam, and mountains in the distance glow faintly against the darkening sky. Predators weigh their options carefully. Night is coming, and with it, both opportunity and risk. As twilight deepens, the world prepares for the quiet of night. Sounds soften, movements slow, and a delicate tension lingers in the air. The plains are not silent, they are expectant. Life holds its breath, senses attuned to the changes that darkness will bring. Every creature, from the tiniest insect to the largest dinosaur, responds to this natural rhythm, tuned perfectly to the planet's cycles. Twilight across the plains is more than an end of day, it is a bridge between two worlds. The warmth of sunlight yields to the cool, mysterious night. The activities of the day give way to the strategies and instincts of nocturnal life. And through it all, the plains remain alive, vibrant, and intricately balanced, a testament to the adaptability and resilience of the ancient world. Chapter 14. The long Cretaceous night. Nightfall in the Cretaceous was a world apart. The sun's warmth vanished, replaced by the cool embrace of darkness and the glow of distant stars. For many dinosaurs, this was a time of danger. For others, it was an opportunity. The long night tested instincts, patience, and the finely tuned senses of every creature that dared to move in shadow. Imagine a dense forest under a sky scattered with stars. The temperature drops quickly, frost forming in some regions while others remain damp and chilled. Small mammals emerge from burrows, cautious and nimble, hunting insects and seeds. Their tiny eyes gleam as they dart from cover to cover, aware that even a moment of distraction could be fatal. Larger dinosaurs, adapted for nocturnal activity, navigate with keen sight and acute hearing. Every leaf rustle, every snapping twig is a signal, a clue to prey or predator. Night predators ruled with quiet efficiency. Small theropods, feathered and swift, move silently along forest floors, their claws barely disturbing leaves. Crocodile relatives patrol rivers and marshes, waiting for unsuspecting creatures that approach for water. Even pterosaurs, taking advantage of cooler air currents, may glide low over forests, silently scanning for movement. The dark is alive, a shifting stage of hunt and evasion. Meanwhile, prey species develop strategies to survive these hours. Herds cluster tightly, relying on numbers and coordinated vigilance. Some animals freeze at the slightest hint of danger, blending into shadows, while others move in patterns designed to confuse predators. Even insects and amphibians participate in this nightly game of survival, their movements creating a symphony of life in low light. The night sky itself influenced life. Stars and the moon provided faint illumination, guiding creatures across plains, forests, and riverbanks. Animals may have used celestial cues to migrate, forage, or navigate home. Fossil evidence hints at patterns of movement tied to seasonal cycles and lunar phases, showing that even the smallest creatures were attuned to the rhythm of the universe. life at night was not purely about danger. It was about opportunity. Cooler temperatures allowed some animals to travel greater distances, and nocturnal niches reduced competition with daytime species. Insects, small mammals, and certain dinosaurs flourished in darkness, thriving where others could not. This delicate balance between risk and reward shaped evolutionary pathways in subtle yet profound ways. Through the long night, ecosystems hummed with activity. The quiet rustle of leaves, the distant splash of a predator in water, and the faint calls of nocturnal birds and mammals filled the air. Every sound mattered, every movement counted. Survival required intelligence, awareness, and adaptability, a lesson still echoed in the descendants of these creatures today. The long, Cretaceous night reminds us that life is never confined to daylight. Darkness is not absence. It is a stage for complexity, strategy, and resilience. The stars above, the shadows below, and the creatures in between all coexisted in a world alive with activity, wonder, and survival. And when dawn finally broke, the creatures of the night retreated, leaving the stage for the day, but the echoes of nocturnal life lingered, a subtle enduring pulse beneath the rhythm of time. Chapter 15. Ocean Shadows, Beneath the Waves. World of the dinosaurs transformed into something almost alien. Oceans teemed with life, a realm of shadow and motion, where massive predators ruled and unseen currents shaped survival. From shallow coastal waters to deep marine trenches, the Cretaceous seas were a theater of hunting, evasion, and extraordinary adaptation. Picture a coastline at dawn. Waves lap against rocky shores, mist rising in soft tendrils. Schools of fish dart beneath the surface, shimmering silver against the deep blues and greens of the water. Above, pterosaurs glide along the winds, searching for fish and small marine reptiles. The ocean's edge is alive with activity, a constant interplay of predator and prey. In the deeper waters, giants glide with terrifying elegance. Mosasaurs, long and serpentine, hunt with intelligence and precision, snapping up fish, smaller marine reptiles, and even unsuspecting seabirds. Pliosaurs, with powerful jaws and massive bodies, dominate other regions, their presence reshaping the lives of countless species. Even smaller creatures like ammonites and belemnites navigate this dangerous world, their shells offering protection as currents and predators test every instinct. Shallow reefs, vibrant with corals and sponges, form refuges and feeding grounds. Herbivorous marine reptiles graze on seaweeds and algae, while fish and small invertebrates flit through the labyrinth of coral-like structures. Predators lurk just beyond, using shadow and silence as camouflage. Life in these waters is a balance of movement and stillness, of energy and patience. The ocean's shadows also conceal mysteries. Fossil evidence reveals the behaviors of marine dinosaurs, their hunting patterns, and even the occasional catastrophic event: storms, underwater landslides, and sudden predator attacks. These incidents shaped evolutionary paths favoring those species best adapted to the fluid, shifting environment of the seas. Adaptation was key. Many marine reptiles developed streamlined bodies for speed, sharp teeth for capturing prey, and sensitive eyes for detecting movement in dim light. Some traveled vast distances, migrating along coastlines or across oceans, following food sources or seasonal changes. Every trait was honed by millions of years of selective pressure, a testament to survival in a realm as unpredictable as it was vast. Even at night, the ocean is far from quiet. Bioluminescent creatures shimmer beneath the waves, creating ghostly glows that hint at unseen activity. Predators glide silently through these lights, hunting by both sight and instinct. The interplay between light and shadow, hunter and hunted, gives the oceans their dynamic, almost cinematic quality. The oceans of the Cretaceous were a world apart from land. Yet they were part of the same intricate web, influencing climate, migration, and evolution on a global scale. From the tiniest plankton to the largest mosasaur, every organism contributed to a balance that was fragile, complex, and endlessly fascinating. Ocean shadows remind us that life is adaptable, persistent, and endlessly inventive. Even in depths where sunlight barely reaches, survival thrives, strategies evolve, and the drama of existence unfolds in silence and shadow. The seas were alive, mysterious, and merciless, and through their depths we glimpse the full scope of prehistoric life beyond the land. Chapter 16. The Sky Rulers Above the Forests, Plains, and Oceans of the Cretaceous. An unseen yet breathtaking realm unfold, a world ruled not by sheer size or strength, but by mastery of the skies. The sun-drenched horizons and golden thermal currents were highways for creatures of air, and at the heart of this aerial empire were the pterosaurs. These were not merely flying reptiles. They were the embodiment of adaptation, grace, and predatory intelligence, shaping the world below with every wing beat. Picture a sunrise over a jagged coastline. Mist curls over cliffs, waves crash rhythmically, and a soft orange glow brushes the tips of distant trees. From this canvas, the sky rulers emerge. Massive wings stretch across meters of space, catching thermal currents effortlessly. Pterosaurs soar in elegant arcs, eyes scanning the terrain for movement, mouths lined with sharp teeth poised for precision strikes. Their flight is at once poetry and power, a perfect balance of muscle, instinct, and aerodynamic finesse. Flight offered freedom that terrestrial life could scarcely imagine. From above, these rulers surveyed vast expanses, endless forests, winding rivers, and herds of dinosaurs grazing far below. They were masters of perspective, able to spot the subtle twitch of a tail or the glint of an eye in the distance. Every movement, every pattern mattered. With vision keen enough to see movement miles away, pterosaurs could plan ambushes, avoid threats, and exploit opportunities that would elude even the most cunning land predator. But life in the sky was no simple luxury. Storms swept in without warning, winds shifted suddenly, and cloud cover could obscure familiar landmarks. Survival demanded skill, awareness, and adaptability. Young pterosaurs learned to fly gradually, developing muscle memory and coordination through trial and instinct. Their early attempts were often clumsy, yet each failed glide or sudden fall was a lesson in physics, balance, and life. Parents may have guided their fledglings, nudging them towards safer currents and teaching them the subtleties of wind and lift. The aerial ecosystem itself was layered with complexity. Smaller birds and gliding reptiles shared the skies, occupying niches that allowed them to avoid direct competition while thriving alongside the pterosaurs. Insects, swarming and luminous at dusk, became both food and challenge for predators in flight. Each species moved in a careful dance of strategy. Prey adapted evasive maneuvers, predators honed intercepting trajectories, and all relied on the invisible patterns of air currents, thermals, and wind shears. Even the nocturnal skies were alive with life. Some pterosaur species may have hunted during twilight or in moonlit conditions, their large eyes and acute senses giving them advantage over terrestrial prey unaccustomed to low light. The quiet of the night was deceptive. Beneath the stars, predators glided silently, shadows among shadows, honing skills that daylight might never demand. Night offered opportunity for stealth, but also danger. Unknown currents, sudden predator encounters, and the fragile balance between success and failure. The influence of sky rulers extended far beyond the air itself. Herding herbivores adjusted their patterns, seeking shelter under trees or clustering for protection. Aquatic creatures, from fish to semi-aquatic reptiles, modified their behaviors to avoid aerial ambushes. Even insects altered flight paths and activity levels to evade detection. The Cretaceous skies shaped life on every level, revealing a deep interconnected web where air, land, and water constantly influenced each other. Flight itself was a masterclass in adaptation. Pterosaurs evolved lightweight skeletons, hollow bones, elongated wings, and sharp eyesight, creating predators capable of both endurance and agility. Some species were specialized for long-distance gliding over oceans, traveling hundreds of kilometers to follow prey or migrate seasonally. Others were acrobatic hunters, weaving through forests with precision, catching insects, small vertebrates, or fish mid-air. Their behaviors were not random. They were carefully tuned survival strategies honed over millions of years. And yet, the skies were not exclusively the domain of the giant. Smaller flying creatures had their own roles. Tiny birds, feathered gliders, and even winged reptiles exploited niches that allowed them to feed, evade predators, and reproduce. Every creature added to the complexity, creating a layered aerial ecosystem that pulsed with motion, energy, and tension. As the sun dipped to the horizon, the sky rulers became silhouettes against streaked pinks, oranges, and purples. They glided effortlessly, sometimes in pairs, sometimes alone, tracing invisible lines across the thermals. Their shadows stretched across forests and rivers, fleeting yet commanding. In this vast, three-dimensional world, every glide, every stoop, every climb mattered. Life in the air demanded precision, courage, and intelligence. Observing the sky rulers gives us more than an image of flight. It gives us insight into evolution itself. These were creatures that defied gravity and expectation, mastering a world that required both skill and instinct. From the tiniest fledgling flapping uncertainly to the largest pterosaur commanding the sky with awe-inspiring wingspan. The Cretaceous air was alive with drama, strategy, and survival. The sky rulers remind us that dominance is not always about size or brute force. It is about adaptation, awareness, and the ability to harness the environment to one's advantage. They were the lords of thermals and turbulence, shaping the world below as much as they navigated the heavens above. And in doing so, they left a legacy of ingenuity and mastery that echoes in the birds and creatures that soar today. Above the land, across the oceans, and into the clouds, the age of dinosaurs was alive with motion, sound, and strategy, a world both mesmerizing and unforgiving. Ruled by the silent, sweeping power of flight. Chapter 17. Echoes of the Hunt expanded. The hunt is one of nature's oldest and most mesmerizing dramas, a blend of strategy, instinct, and survival that shaped life on Earth for millions of years. In the age of dinosaurs, hunting was not just a physical act. It was a delicate balance of intelligence, timing, and environmental mastery. It was the heartbeat of ecosystems, echoing silently through forests, plains, and riverbanks. Imagine a dense Cretaceous forest at dawn. Mist curls along the ferns, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth. Among the shadows, a theropod predator moves with uncanny precision. Each step is measured, each movement nearly invisible. Its eyes scan, ears twitch, and nostrils flare as it reads the subtle signals of potential prey. A flick of a tail, the slightest movement of grass, or a distant rustle, all are messages in a complex code of survival. One wrong move could end the hunt. One hesitation could cost the predator a meal. Not all hunts were solitary affairs. Some species of theropods demonstrate signs of pack behavior, suggesting surprising social intelligence. Fossils show patterns that hint at coordinated ambushes, one individual driving prey toward another, others waiting in concealment. These early collaborations were evolutionary strategies, enhancing efficiency and survival. It's fascinating to imagine the subtle communication, the planning, and the silent coordination that unfolded without vocalizations detectable to us, yet perfectly understood among the hunters. But the hunted were no passive participants in this drama. Herds of hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and ankylosaurs moved in intricate formations. Adults flanked the young, sick, or injured, creating protective barriers and confusion that frustrated even the most agile predator. Escape required more than speed. It demanded awareness, timing, and sometimes sheer luck. Fossilized trackways show patterns of chase, panic, and sudden directional changes, evidence that both predator and prey were engaged in a high-stakes chess match. Every step, every turn, every sudden leap was a calculated gamble. The landscape itself played a pivotal role in the hunt. Rivers could become natural traps, cliffs funneling prey into ambush zones, and dense vegetation concealing predators until the critical moment. Predators learned the rhythms of their territories, exploiting seasonal patterns, migration routes, and water sources to maximize their success. This understanding of terrain reveals a form of intelligence and adaptability that rivals some modern hunting strategies, showing that survival required not only strength, but keen perception and planning. Night brought a whole new dimension to predation. Under starlit skies, predators with nocturnal adaptations moved silently. Their keen senses, enhanced vision, acute hearing, and sensitive smell allowed them to hunt under low-light conditions. The subtle hum of insects, the distant splash of water, or the faint rustle of leaves became cues in an intricate nocturnal ballet. Small theropods thrived in this niche, hunting insects, small mammals, and juvenile dinosaurs, exploiting a time and space where larger diurnal predators could not venture. The hunt was also an education. Young predators observed and learned, mimicking adults with careful attention to stealth, timing, and strike accuracy. Every failure was a lesson, every successful capture a mastery of instinct and intelligence. Similarly, prey learned through experience. Herds passed knowledge across generations, teaching the young to recognize predator signals, optimal escape routes, and safe grazing patterns. In essence, each hunt was a story of knowledge being handed down, shaping behavior across centuries. Predation left enduring marks on the environment. Fossilized bones bear bite marks, scratches, and healed injuries, testaments to survival struggles. Footprints in sediment tell tales of pursuit, sudden leaps, and frantic evasion. Even the vegetation records these interactions, showing evidence of trampling, feeding, and fleeing. The echoes of the hunt are more than fossilized remains. They are living stories, frozen in time, revealing the relentless pulse of life in the Cretaceous. Hunting influenced evolution profoundly. Speed, coordination, camouflage, social behavior, and intelligence all evolved under the pressure of predator-prey dynamics. The constant push and pull between hunter and hunted created a silent arms race, invisible yet incredibly influential, shaping anatomy, behavior, and even social structures. It is in these echoes that we find the ingenuity of life, the strategies that allowed some species to thrive while others vanished into extinction. Yet beyond the survival imperative, the hunt was a spectacle of life, intense, dramatic, and interconnected. Every chase, ambush, and escape echoed across the plains and forests, reverberating in the balance of ecosystems. It reminds us that life, even millions of years ago, was a complex interplay of intelligence, instinct, and adaptation, where every being played a role in the grand tapestry of existence. The echoes of the hunt resonate still. They remind us that in the age of dinosaurs, survival was an art, a science, and a story written in bone, claw, footprint, and instinct. Life was relentless, beautiful, and unforgiving, and in the shadowed forests and sunlit plains, every creature contributed to a timeless drama that continues to captivate our imagination. Chapter 18, Songs of Survival. Life in the Cretaceous was a constant symphony, a complex chorus of calls, movements, and interactions that shaped every ecosystem. Survival was not just a matter of sight, speed, or strength. It was also about communication. Dinosaurs and their contemporaries used sounds, signals, and subtle gestures to navigate danger, coordinate with others, and maintain social bonds. In this intricate web of life, every note, every rustle, and every cry mattered. Imagine a vast forest at dawn. The first golden rays filter through dense ferns, and the air vibrates with sound. Small theropods chirp and hiss, alerting one another to approaching predators or signaling territory. Herbivorous dinosaurs, from hadrosaurs to ceratopsians, emit low rumbles or bellows to keep their herd coordinated, warning of danger or guiding younger members. Even insects, amphibians, and small mammals add to this orchestra, their tiny calls. Echoing through the undergrowth. Communication had multiple purposes. Predators might vocalize to coordinate hunts, using subtle calls or body signals to encircle prey efficiently. Prey species used alarm calls, stamping, or gestures to alert the herd. Some may have even relied on complex visual signals, plumes, colors, or postures to convey messages over distance. These songs of survival were vital for maintaining life in a world full of predators, environmental challenges, and competition. The diversity of soundscapes is staggering. From the quiet cooing of small gliding reptiles to the deafening roar of giant carnivores, each species occupied its own acoustic niche. Low-frequency vibrations could travel long distances, alerting animals to danger or coordinating migrations. Higher-pitched calls might communicate subtle information or attract mates. Sound was as important as sight and smell, a critical adaptation that allowed creatures to thrive in dense forests, open plains, and coastal wetlands alike. Even environmental sounds played a role in survival. Wind rustling through trees, rivers, rushing over rocks, and volcanic activity created ambient noise that could mask movements, aid in hunting, or provide cues about approaching danger. Predators learned to interpret these sounds, understanding when to strike, when to wait, and when to retreat. Prey species adapted as well, distinguishing meaningful signals from background noise in a complex auditory landscape. Parenting and social bonds also relied heavily on communication. Nesting dinosaurs might produce soft calls to keep hatchlings calm or to guide them to safety. Herds and packs relied on shared signals to move cohesively, protect vulnerable members, and coordinate foraging. These interactions reveal a surprising sophistication, hinting at intelligence and social structures often overlooked in popular portrayals of dinosaurs. Songs of survival were not limited to individual species. Ecosystems functioned as an intricate network of interrelated signals, where the cries of one animal could trigger a cascade of responses across multiple species. A predator's growl might send herbivores scattering, insects taking flight, and smaller reptiles ducking for cover, all in a split second. Life was a constant interplay of sound and reaction, creating a dynamic, ever-changing symphony of existence. Night added another layer to this auditory world. As darkness fell, creatures adapted their calls for nocturnal activity. Owlish pterosaurs, nocturnal small theropods, and amphibians used low-light communication to hunt, avoid predators, or maintain social contact. The quiet of night was deceptive. It was filled with subtle signals, delicate echoes, and vital exchanges that determined life or death. The songs of survival remind us that life in the age of dinosaurs was far more sophisticated than a simple struggle for food. It was a network of intelligence, coordination, and adaptation, where every sound, movement, and gesture had meaning. The forests, plains, and rivers were alive not only with motion, but with communication, an unseen, intricate layer of interaction that underpinned every heartbeat of prehistoric life. Listening to these echoes, we gain insight into the intelligence, resilience, and complexity of ancient creatures. Every chirp, call, or rumble was a tool, a warning, a connection. Life thrived because it could communicate, adapt, and respond in real time to the challenges of its environment. The songs of survival were more than noise. They were the soundtrack of existence itself, an enduring testament to the ingenuity and vitality of prehistoric life. Chapter 18, Songs of Survival, expanded. Life in the Cretaceous was far from silent. Every forest, plain, and river valley hummed with sound. creating a symphony of survival. In a world dominated by massive predators, shifting ecosystems, and intense competition, communication was not a luxury, it was a lifeline. The songs of survival echoed through time, a testament to adaptation, social intelligence, and the delicate choreography of life. Picture a sunrise over a dense fern forest. Mist lingers among towering conifers, sunlight streaking through the leaves. The air vibrates with life. Small theropods chirp, their calls warning others of movement. Herbivores rumble low, keeping their herds cohesive. Distant pterosaurs cry overhead, announcing territory or signaling danger. Even insects, amphibians, and small mammals contribute subtle tones, creating a layered acoustic landscape where every note carries meaning. These sounds were not random, they were tools. Predators coordinated through subtle vocalizations and body signals. A hunt was a strategic performance where timing, stealth, and communication determined success. Some theropods may have employed ambush tactics, signaling others silently to encircle prey. In these moments, the forest became a theater of suspense, each sound or silence shaping the outcome of life or death. Prey species responded with equal sophistication. Herding dinosaurs, such as hadrosaurs and ceratopsians, developed complex alarm systems. A single call could ripple through the group, triggering coordinated defensive maneuvers. Adults positioned themselves to shield the young and weak, creating living barricades against attack. Escape was rarely about brute force alone. Awareness, cooperation, and split-second decision-making often made the difference between survival and demise. The environment itself amplified these interactions. The rustle of wind through ferns, the gurgle of rivers, or the distant crash of waves created a dynamic acoustic backdrop. Animals had to distinguish meaningful signals from ambient noise. Predators learned to detect subtle shifts in movement or vibrations that hinted at hiding prey. Prey species, in turn, developed keen auditory awareness, learning to interpret predator cues and environmental sounds to anticipate threats. Even the smallest creatures contributed to this sonic web. Birds, small gliding reptiles, and amphibians relied on chirps, whistles, and calls to coordinate feeding, evade predators, and maintain territory. Insects added a high-pitched counterpoint, filling the spaces between larger calls. Life in the Cretaceous was a carefully balanced orchestra, where every species occupied a niche both physically and acoustically. Parenting and social interactions also relied on communication. Nesting dinosaurs may have used soft coos or hisses to soothe hatchlings or guide them toward food. Herds maintained cohesion through shared signals, coordinating movement and foraging across vast tracts of land. Even courtship likely involved sound. Males may have used bellows, calls, or display movements to attract mates, while females interpreted these cues to select partners. Sound was not just functional, it was social, emotional, and deeply intertwined with survival. Nightfall transformed the acoustic world. Under the dim light of stars or a crescent moon, nocturnal species became active. Owlish pterosaurs, small theropods, and amphibians communicated in low-frequency calls, echolocation-like signals, or subtle rustles. Predators relied on the faintest hints of movement to strike, while prey honed their senses to detect danger. In the darkness, the nighttime soundscape was quieter yet more precise, a world where subtlety mattered more than volume. The songs of survival shaped evolution itself. Auditory abilities influenced hunting strategies, predator avoidance, and social cohesion. Over generations, both predators and prey developed specialized traits, enhanced hearing, vocalization structures, and social behaviors that increased survival. These adaptations created an invisible web of acoustic intelligence spanning ecosystems and species, reinforcing the idea that sound was as critical as sight, smell, or strength. Life's music extended beyond mere survival. It facilitated cooperation, learning, and the transmission of knowledge. Young dinosaurs and other creatures observed, listened, and practiced, refining instincts under the guidance of adults. Predators honed techniques. Prey refined defensive strategies. The interactions were dynamic and continuous, ensuring that knowledge and skills passed seamlessly across generations, preserving survival strategies and social structures alike, even when the forest seemed calm, every note mattered. A low rumble could signal danger miles away. A high-pitched whistle could trigger evasive maneuvers. The interplay of calls, gestures, and environmental sounds created a living, breathing network of information, a system where every participant contributed to the orchestration of life. Songs of survival remind us that the Cretaceous was far more than a battle for food. It was a dynamic, intelligent, and interconnected world. Sound and signal underpinned every interaction: hunting, evasion, social bonding, and reproduction. Life thrived not just through physical might, but through understanding, communication, and adaptability. In listening to these echoes, we glimpse the depth, intelligence, and vibrancy of a world long vanished yet preserved in the fossil record and the imagination. The forests, plains, and wetlands were alive with a constant, subtle symphony. Every chirp, bellow, hiss, and rustle was a story of survival, a thread woven into the intricate tapestry of life. And in these songs, we hear not only the struggle of existence, but the remarkable ingenuity and resilience of creatures that ruled. The Prehistoric World. Chapter 19. Twilight across the plains as the sun sinks low. The vast Cretaceous plains are bathed in a soft golden glow, stretching shadows across rolling hills and dense fern groves. Twilight is a liminal time, a threshold between the frantic energy of day and the hidden dangers of night. On these plains, life slows and quickens in equal measure, as every creature adapts to the changing light, temperature, and risk. Imagine a herd of hadrosaurs moving steadily toward a watering hole. Adults flank the vulnerable young, positioning themselves strategically to shield against predators. The ground trembles slightly under their collective weight, and the air is rich with scent, fresh grass, dust, and the tang of water. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig could signal safety or threat, and both prey and predator are acutely aware of these subtle cues. Even the gentle breeze carries meaning, dispersing scents that inform distant creatures of presence or danger. Predators, meanwhile, move with a quiet patience. A large theropod crouches behind a ridge, using the low sun to mask its silhouette. Its eyes are attuned to even the slightest motion. Muscles tense as it waits, calculating the precise moment to strike. Ambush strategies at twilight are different. From daytime hunts, light and shadow become both camouflage and weapon, and the rules of engagement shift. Smaller predators emerge too, taking advantage of the dimming light to hunt insects, amphibians, or juvenile dinosaurs, exploiting opportunities unseen during the glaring day. The plains themselves are alive with guidance and subtle signals. Rivers wind like silver ribbons, shaping movement patterns and grazing spots. Hills and gentle slopes funnel herds in predictable ways, while groves of conifers and cycads offer shade, shelter, and concealment. These features create a natural choreography of movement, which both predator and prey learn to interpret over time. Fossilized trackways suggest that many species use these environmental cues repeatedly, building an intimate understanding of the land that allowed survival in an unpredictable world. Twilight is also a time of heightened social interaction. Herds communicate with low rumbles, bellows, and subtle body movements to coordinate positions, alert each other to danger, and guide the young. Some species may have had even more sophisticated signaling, using colors, feather displays, or head gestures that catch the fading light. Predator packs rely on similar coordination. Silent cues, shared glances, and instinctive timing enable them to work together, encircling or ambushing with precision. It is a complex ballet of intelligence, instinct, and timing, where both hunter and hunted read the same signs and adapt accordingly. Night's approach brings its own sensory shifts. The cooling air carries new smells. The shadows lengthen, and creatures adapted to low light begin to stir. Small mammals, insects, and amphibians become more active, filling ecological niches overlooked by larger diurnal species. Nocturnal predators use these hours strategically, taking advantage of reduced visibility and slower herd movements. Even the faintest rustle of grass or flicker of movement can indicate opportunity or danger. Life at twilight is a delicate balance of vigilance and action. The emotional undertones of twilight cannot be ignored. There's both calm and tension, moments of serenity interrupted by sudden alarm, subtle interactions layered with meaning. Young dinosaurs may pause to nurse or nuzzle one another, learning about social bonds and safety. Adults stand sentinel, ears and eyes scanning for subtle changes in light, sound, or movement. Predators, too, feel the pulse of anticipation, calculating risks and rewards in these quiet hours. Twilight is simultaneously a pause and a preparation, a reflective moment before the night's challenges. Even the smallest details of the environment influence life. A river's shimmer catches the eye, signaling a potential danger or a source of hydration. The scent of flowering plants may draw herbivores, unknowingly guiding them closer to predators. Shadows cast by distant trees can offer cover or reveal movement. Every element, the rustle of ferns, the whisper of wind, the call of an insect, is part of the interconnected tapestry of survival. As darkness deepens, herds begin to settle. Young calves are nestled close to adults. Small groups of dinosaurs huddle near water or shelter. The plains quiet, yet not entirely. Subtle rustlings, soft vocalizations, and distant sounds maintain the pulse of life. Predators retreat or adjust positions, waiting for the cover of night to resume activity. The plains exhale, a soft sigh after the intensity of the day, and life shifts seamlessly into a new rhythm. Twilight across the plains reveals the nuanced, interconnected, and emotionally resonant world of the Cretaceous. It was not merely a landscape of survival, it was a dynamic stage where every creature played a vital role, where intelligence, communication, and environmental awareness determined life or death. The plains, bathed in fading light, become a living painting of movement, sound, and strategy, a reminder that beauty and danger coexisted, woven together into the rhythm of prehistoric life. As the last rays of sunlight vanish, the plains are ready for night. The world transforms once more, a realm of subtle shadows, quiet rustlings, and hidden predators. Twilight is not an ending. It is a bridge, a delicate threshold where the lessons of the day carry forward, preparing every creature for the unfolding drama of the Long Cretaceous Night. Chapter 20. The Long Cretaceous Night. As the sun disappears beyond the horizon, the Cretaceous world transforms. Twilight's golden and violet hues give way to deep indigo and silver, and the plains, forests, and river valleys are bathed in moonlight and the faint glow of distant stars. This is a world reshaped by shadow, where familiar landscapes become mysterious, and every movement carries weight. Night does not bring stillness. It brings an entirely different rhythm, a complex web of adaptation, strategy, and survival. Across the plains, herds of herbivorous dinosaurs adjust their behavior. Young hadrosaurs huddle close to their parents, seeking warmth and protection. Adults stand as vigilant sentinels, scanning the dimly lit surroundings for signs of danger. Their senses are heightened, hearing is sharper, eyes tuned to subtle glints of reflected moonlight, and every vibration through the earth is interpreted as either a threat or reassurance. Even the softest rustle of grass can be the telltale sign of predators closing in, and instincts honed over millions of years guide their every movement. Predators, too, emerge from the cover of dense forests and shadowed hills. Agile small theropods hunt under the veil of darkness, relying on acute senses rather than brute strength. Their movements are silent, calculated, and almost ghost-like. Larger predators remain mostly inactive, conserving energy, yet some opportunists exploit the confusion of night. A sudden flicker of movement, a misplaced step, or a faint sound can mean the difference between life and death. Ambushes during the night are not just acts of hunting, they are games of patience, perception, and timing, where success depends on reading the environment as much as catching prey. The nocturnal world is alive with sound. Small mammals scurry along the underbrush, their high-pitched calls echoing faintly. Amphibians croak near rivers and wetlands, adding a rhythmic undercurrent to the nocturnal symphony. Insects rise from the shadows, producing a soft hum that fills the night. Even the wind has a voice, rustling leaves and bending tall grasses, in ways that camouflage movement or provide cues to the creatures below. Every auditory signal carries significance, allowing prey to evade predators, predators to track prey, and social groups to communicate vital information. Nighttime also brings an intensification of social behaviors. Many species rely on subtle vocalizations or gestures to maintain cohesion, reassure young, or signal to mates. Parents emit gentle calls to soothe hatchlings or guide them through potentially dangerous terrain. Herds communicate with rumbles and soft bellows to coordinate movement across vast darkened plains. Even predator packs demonstrate a quiet coordination, signaling readiness, strategy, or withdrawal with minimal noise. The night is a time when the subtleties of communication matter more than ever. Environmental cues play a critical role in shaping behavior. Moonlight glistens off waterholes, revealing both opportunity and vulnerability. Shadows cast by trees and ridges hide predators or expose prey. The faint scent of a distant herbivore or predator drifts on the cool night air, altering movement patterns across the plains. Creatures of the night interpret these cues instinctively, moving with a precision that is both instinctual and learned, honed over countless generations. Survival is a dance of awareness, interpretation, and action. Even the smallest animals are vital players in this nocturnal drama. Tiny mammals forage for seeds and insects, avoiding notice by larger hunters. Small reptiles and amphibians exploit night conditions to hunt prey or evade predators. Insects contribute to the ambient soundscape, creating a layered, living tapestry of life. Every species, from the largest theropod to the tiniest cricket, participates in the nocturnal rhythms that define survival, balance, and adaptation. There is also an undeniable beauty to the night. Stars scatter across the sky, ancient and brilliant, while the moon casts silver light across the plains, reflecting off rivers and highlighting the silhouettes of prehistoric giants. The quiet majesty of the landscape evokes awe here. Life is both fragile and enduring, ephemeral yet eternal. The night is a reminder that survival is not only about struggle, it is about awareness, ingenuity, and resilience. The long Cretaceous night teaches us that life does not simply rest when darkness falls. It transforms, adapts, and thrives. Predators, prey, and every creature in between move with purpose, perception, and subtlety. The nocturnal ecosystem is as vibrant and intricate as the day, revealing layers of interaction, intelligence, and survival strategies often hidden from human eyes. As hours pass and the moon arcs higher in the sky, activity gradually slows. Nocturnal predators return to hidden dens or elevated resting spots. Herbivores settle, the young safely nestled within the protective embrace of their herds. Insects quiet, amphibians cease their calls, and the world seems to exhale in a soft, measured sigh. Yet life does not stop. It rests briefly, only to awaken again with the rising sun. The long Cretaceous night is not merely darkness. It is a living, breathing testament to the complexity of prehistoric life, a world of stealth, Awareness, beauty, and connection. Every sound, shadow, and movement carries meaning. Every creature, large or small, contributes to this symphony of survival that echoes across the plains. And as night fades into dawn, the cycle continues, endless, eternal, and endlessly fascinating, a final, enduring note in the great story of life on Earth. Chapter 21. The eternal dawn. The first hints of light spill across the prehistoric horizon, turning the plains, forests, and river valleys into a canvas of gold, rose, and amber. Dawn is a quiet miracle, the transition from night to day, from mystery to revelation. It is a time when the world seems to hold its breath, suspended between what was and what is to come. The shadows of night slowly recede, revealing familiar forms in entirely new ways: the gentle curve of a hadrosaur's back, the silvery glint of a river winding through the forest, and the distant silhouette of a towering predator standing sentinel. Herds of herbivores awaken with the soft light. Young dinosaurs stretch their limbs, playfully nudging one another as they learn to navigate the landscape. Adults are vigilant, moving with careful awareness, remembering the lessons of night, the stealth of predators, the subtle signals of the environment, and the power of social bonds. Even in the soft morning glow, survival depends on alertness and understanding, the ability to read the signs written across land, air, and water. Every rustle of foliage, every movement in the distance, carries meaning, a reminder that life is never idle. Predators awaken with purpose. The first rays of sunlight illuminate the plains, revealing prey and opportunity. No longer concealed by night, hunting strategies shift, relying now on speed, coordination, and sharp observation. Stealth remains critical, but so does adaptability. The landscape changes with light, shadows shrink, and animals adjust instinctively. The balance of life teeters delicately between hunter and hunted, each aware that dawn, though beautiful, brings both promise and peril. The environment itself is alive, communicating in ways both obvious and subtle. Rivers catch the sunlight, guiding movement and hinting at hydration points. Trees sway gently, signaling wind patterns and the movement of creatures. The soft murmur of grasses carries scents, and distant hills echo faint noises, offering clues about the presence of both allies and adversaries. Dawn teaches that survival is as much about perception and intelligence as it is about strength or speed. The world itself becomes a guide, whispering lessons to those who pay attention. Social interactions come alive in the morning. Herds call out in low rumbles and soft bellows, coordinating movement and ensuring safety. Parents gently nudge hatchlings, teaching them about food sources, water access, and predator awareness. Predator packs may coordinate their positions silently, anticipating movement patterns of prey. Each action is layered with meaning. Each glance, movement, or sound carries intent. In the quiet brilliance of dawn, communication and connection are as essential as instinct and strength. The eternal dawn is also a time of observation, reflection, and beauty. Starlight fades but leaves its memory in the sky's lingering glow. Moonlight disappears, leaving rivers sparkling, leaves glinting, with dew and mountains etched in gold and pink. Silhouettes of towering dinosaurs stand in quiet majesty, casting long shadows across the awakening land. There is a softness to dawn, a calmness that contrasts with the urgency of survival. Yet it is a fleeting calm, a reminder that life is a dance of tension and beauty, danger and serenity. Even the smallest creatures play their part. Tiny mammals emerge from burrows, foraging for food. Insects buzz with the first warmth of sunlight. Amphibians stir near waterholes, and birds begin tentative flights across open skies. Every life, no matter the size, contributes to the awakening symphony. Survival is a shared story where the actions of one ripple across the ecosystem, influencing the movement, strategy, and safety of others. As the sun rises fully, bathing the plains in golden warmth, there's a sense of continuity. Dawn is not an end, it is both a conclusion and a beginning. It bridges the mystery of the night with the clarity of day, linking the struggles and strategies of nocturnal life with the bustling, complex rhythms of daytime activity. Life moves forward, ever adaptive, ever resilient, and endlessly fascinating. Eternal Dawn is a celebration of endurance, intelligence, and wonder. It reminds us that the Cretaceous world was not only a place of survival, it was a place of connection, adaptation, and subtle beauty. Every sound, every shadow, every glimmer of light held meaning. Every creature, predator, prey, mammal, bird, or insect played a role in the intricate web of life. As the light strengthens, the plains, forests, and rivers come alive with motion once more. Herds graze, predators hunt, and the cycle of life continues unabated. The prehistoric world, though vanished from the earth, echoes endlessly through the fossil record, through imagination, and through the wonder it inspires in all who seek to understand it. Dawn carries a timeless lesson. Life endures, adapts, and flourishes, even in the face of darkness, danger, and uncertainty. The eternal dawn is the final reflective moment of our journey, a gentle exhale after 2 hours immersed in prehistoric mysteries. It allows the mind to wander, the imagination to roam, and the heart to marvel at a world that existed millions of years ago, yet continues to captivate us today. In its quiet majesty, it reminds us that the story of life is eternal, ever evolving, and endlessly inspiring.